Hello and welcome. This is Paul Pedron, ZENcast Live that I don't think is live. Looks like they might have pulled my token, so I don't believe that we are live right now. I'm going to go ahead and go through all what I had prepared for us for ZENworks bundles. I'll post the recording out on the website so that you guys can watch the recording. But in the meantime, we're going to I'll need to check out why. I suspect because OpenText, it's now gone over to the OpenText hands from Micro Focus. So I need to get some background. They pulled it today. It tested fine yesterday, but we're going to go forward with this and give this to you. So if you're watching this, great. I can't seem to see that I can't connect with my account, but it says you can try anyhow and do the stream. So that's what I'm doing. Anyway, let's move forward. We're talking about, this is ZENcast Live. We're going to be talking about more ZENworks bundles today. I prepped some things for ZENworks bundles. And we're going to move forward with going to the lab. And let's have a look here. Yep, ZENworks bundles. Moving stuff around here. And you may be asking, what is ZENcast Live? It's for ZENworks administrators, ZENworks community, or anybody interested in ZENworks trying to figure out certain things. We go through different topics every first and third Tuesday at 9 o'clock Mountain Time. You can see all the recordings in this link here. I'll go ahead and post this particular presentation with all the links in it on the description of this particular recording. And that gives you the advantage of logging into YouTube, chatting live when we're live, subscribe to notifications, and provide feedback, comments. We want to make sure we're hitting the target with this particular forum. And again, likes and unlikes, we want to make sure we want to hit those targets. Again, the description will have posted in the video, we'll have links to this download and references and other PDFs, so you can download and get those links. There are a lot of new TIDs, okay? The ZSD customization cookbook, the master debugging logging reference is there, and works gives you all the different details for different debugs. If we look at the external, some of these other TIDs, this one's external Postgres, randomly aborts. There's the NZR wallpaper crashes when VCC++ is out of date. Put primary server into full debug mode. You have all these yellow ones are brand new. And by the way, ZSD has a bunch of new ones as well. For instance, how to set up reminders and automating call closures. Okay. So those are the TIDs. Those references are there so that you can reference those. Those are the most recent ones. Of course, I try to get the most recent ones in this list. There's also ZRS logs for troubleshooting. There's vertical tool patches, master debug logging references here as well, and anti-malware support logs. Okay. Let me move this over a little bit. All right. So tidbits and crumbs. So let's go to this one. Here's our crumbs. We have monthly webinar topics that are coming up. So you can sign up for them here. You can see what they have been. 23.4 management of Mac devices, all the way out through May and June had managing Linux ZENworks, and that should be posted soon. ZSD log, Road to Excellence. There's a blog out there for ZENworks and how it's transformed a particular network management. There's some ZCM admin courses. TTP USA is coming to Provo, July 13th through 19th. And there's a workshop the 13th, 14th, and then 15th through 19th is conferences for both you and your colleagues, as well as PMs like me and developers will be presenting. You could view sessions of the OpenText world here. There's also an open TTP EMEA from Europe that they did earlier this year. You can view those particular sessions if you're interested in those. Couple of reminders. ZSD 831, 83X actually. Let's put ZENworks in here. You'll see service test down at the bottom. It has expired last year. Okay, make sure that you move forward on your ZENworks product. We have a couple of others. January. Sorry. Let's go here. 24.2 is released, so you have yearlies on these. All right. Then you have the life cycle for 2020, and be sure to make sure you're upgrading from 2020 that expired early January or late January, and get to ZENworks 23X at least, so you get all the support you needed. Another thing about ZPM old patch feeds, they expired. If you're on the legacy patch feed, they expired back in May, and now you need to be transferred over to the new patch feed, which is advanced patch feed, which has a lot of new features: faster patch scanning, streaming patch content on demand, and so forth. So double check that, make sure that you're on the new feed. And then ZCM Windows primaries. So ZCM Windows primaries, why support on the Windows server is ending, why my platform, what are my platform options, and so forth. Okay, make sure you get to those to keep them up to date. That way you get full support. If you need help, please call support. We'll be happy to assist you in that. All right, a recap. How hybrid workspaces can work for you and your organization was done last week. We talked about a few simple distributions, multi-factor authentication, local user sources, and so forth. We're today going to be talking about ZCM more bundle management. And there's a few details I wanted to make sure I got across in the ZMD messages. 999 is when it... 999 is when things, and we'll see this in the log, I'll present this. 999 is the presentation of when the agent is booting up. Good to know. At least you know where the starting point is, right? And then, of course, you have the process numbers and the logging configurations for debug, number of archives, level of the logging, what it impacts, which devices it impacts, whether it's a local device, a folder, or global level. And then retrieving the logs in 24.2. Nice, exciting things. Spoiler alert there. And don't forget about the master logging KB article. As I mentioned earlier, it has a series of TIDs within it. And depending on what you're going after, you can easily select one of these, like let's go to ZENworks agent and how to enable debug logging. Put an individual managed device into full debug mode. So a lot of tips and tricks here for knowledge transfer for you guys. Also, we'll cover a little bit about subscribe and share, and we will also talk about the Notepad++ and Craig Wilson's bookmarks. Craig Wilson has done bundling for decades, and even before that was an administrator, and he has put aside some bookmarks that we could use, and that'll be very healthy for exploring different ways of doing bundles. Okay, we'll let this come up, see what we got. So we got creating shortcuts, deploying Windows feature updates, installing the ZENworks agent through the deployment kit. Okay, so there's a lot of support tips in here. Configuring ZENworks bundle, dynamically take actions based on the logged in user, so forth. All right, so those are out there for you, and we will carry on to today's agenda of the ZMD messages and doing things of that nature, checking things out. The first thing I want to show you is my zone. We're currently here. I have a few, if I go to bundles, I can go to the dashboard. I have a couple of these pinned, right? So you can see the Notepad++, you can see the info collect, you can see it's effective on 3 devices. This is assigned to 2, but 2 are pending, meaning it hasn't been installed yet. Okay. If we go over to the device and we go ahead and install it, you'll see that we have it configured to run silently. though I still post this message and then it comes up. So it's a real quick install. And that installs, just so you know, to C:/TS for troubleshooting. And then utilities. So it creates these, it drops these two down and then installs it dynamically. Let's see how that's done. Let's go over to the Notepad++. Okay. Good to always put administrator notes in here as well as the description for your users. If we look at the dashboard, we could see what it's related to and how many people have it, right? We talked a little bit about that. Let's double check our actions. First off, let's go to requirements. You can always add filters in here for your bundles. All right. Let's say you want to install VC++, right? Redistribution. You can add a filter to make sure a certain process, okay, a process is running, or a service is running, right, or not running before it even starts. Before, this is for the bundle itself. These requirements here are for the bundle itself. All right. And let's look at some of these actions here. We didn't distribute any files right away, but we did do an install, and we installed a couple of files. And we installed, one thing I like to do with my bundles is give it a little summary right here on the name. So we could see the install these to TS utilities, which we saw, right? And if we look and dig deeper, we can see that that's what we did. You have this particular exe, we install it to the destination, copy, and so forth. Okay, we're going to run this as secure system user. We don't want any interaction with the desktop. We're just going to run it so that it installs. Okay, already has that high level. This install of files, it can go into a protected area, right? And we have some requirements. So if we look at the requirements, if TS NPP, if it already is there, do not download it again. All right. So this particular action of copying these files, if they already exist, don't bother doing it again. That will speed up any reinstalls, right? Okay. So then we go into the launch of Notepad, and I put a switch in here for silent and /D for Notepad++ for directory. And we look at the advanced, and we can see we're running it as its dynamic administrator. All right. Don't wait for the next action. Just start running it, because as soon as it comes down, it'll start running as dynamic user. Okay. We don't have any launch options, or we do have a requirement to make sure that if folder exists, no. Okay. You don't have to copy again. So we go ahead and we run that, and then we have prompt. I have this prompt. Remember, we saw Notepad++ is silently running. So if there's a slow bandwidth, bringing it down, at least they know that it's installing, right? And we always do that, displayed 20 seconds, and you're good. All right, and that's what we saw over here. We saw that happen. It brought down these two files, and we're good to go. It obviously installed these. And now one thing, what about uninstall? Maybe we want to upgrade. We don't want to uninstall this particular version. And this could be anything, but this is a nice way to run the test, right? So if we look at launch, obviously as soon as it's done, it's going to launch the Notepad++. Okay. If we look at advanced, it's going to be in the logged in user. Do not wait, just run it. And then the launch option. Okay. And we don't have any requirements on this. So we basically are setting it to go without any issues. All right. If we do an uninstall, this is typically highlighted. I basically disable this first one when I add my own stuff. And we launched the uninstall.exe. And you can see the uninstall.exe /s. We could see it's run as dynamic administrator. we can also see, oh, by the way, if the file exists, if the uninstall exists, then run it. If it doesn't exist, don't run it because it's not there to run. Okay? And then Notepad++ is not running. So we can currently see that Notepad++ is running right here. And if I try to uninstall, I'm going to get an error. Okay? And we're going to say, yes, I'd like to continue. And it'll say, sorry, requirements are not met. So it's not going to uninstall. But as soon as I close this, let's go back and see what else it does. Hit OK. And then it'll also remove these files. Okay, the files we drop down, we're going to remove. All right. And we don't have any requirements for that. We're just going to go ahead and do it. There's a couple of details there. When system file is locked, retry. So it keeps trying. Run it as system, not as user. Maybe there's its protected area. All right. So now that we've closed Notepad++, we should be able to uninstall that. All right. And looking in here, now the files are gone. So we also removed those files. So this particular directory is empty. Okay. So that's a quick rundown on the details of a particular simple application that we've done. Now, these can get quite complex, and I think I've done a different session, ZENcast, on this, where I looked at these particular actions, the info collect, and we do an install, and there's 25 things that are happening here. All in conjunction. You could see some things continue on failure because we may expect it to fail. There's some with requirements. Okay. So this particular one is to collect exact Zen info and collect other registry things that might be advantageous for support when we need to send files to support. And it has to be, for instance, it may fail on user after a particular user logs in. Well, you want to capture some of the Windows user registry stuff and folder user profile stuff. This actually captures it in their time. So if we looked at this particular launch, we'll see that it's actually run as a dynamic user. We're going to export the hkuser.reg. All right. But then if we look at some of the others, we can see we're exporting a bunch of registry keys here because we had support requested that. And we combined everything into a single, and then we ran ZENinfo, and then combined everything into a zip. Okay. So you can set these for different defaults of running. This one is logged in as user. Okay, so this brings up an analysis checklist that we needed, support needed for us to go through. There's a poll viewer, which is the policy viewer, and then the database browser, which allowed us to open up some of those user-based agent databases. Okay. So you can see it could get quite extensive, and I don't think I had an uninstall on this, but it obviously takes some massaging and details so that you can get it all, everything that you needed. But this really helped well because we were able to grab the user's stuff with a dynamic user still being logged in, but using a elevated user, dynamic administrator, to grab that stuff. Because we couldn't log out and log in as another user, it wouldn't fail. Okay. So let's look at some of the ZENworks properties, or not the ZENworks, but the ZMD messages properties. Okay. If we go to, I don't know if I copied these off. I don't think I did. We're going to go here. And let's go ahead and install And you know about the favorite. Favorite came in a while ago. If we were to open up the pad, we'll go ahead and hit yes. If we go ahead and open this up, double click on this, you can see this favorite here. So you can just go to favorites. All right. So you can mark any one of these as favorites. Okay. And that also appears wherever you have set that particular icon to display. All right. And that's why you see favorites there. This favorite tag. Okay. So let's do an open. We're gonna first cancel. Let's add a language, and well, let's add a language in a minute. Let's open the ZMD messages, and we'll do open. And if we go to downloads, where did it put them? It put it in temp. Windows C, Windows temp. Continue. Yes. And I should have. Well, let's just run a new one then. Interesting. Thought it might be on my other machine. Let's go ahead and run a ZENinfo. Yeah, I think it's on my other machine. Run CMD. Do a ZENinfo. And then if we go ahead and hit OK, it'll go through and run through things. Let's go to our other. Here they are. So we've run a few. I did some practice runs here, and looking at my ZENinfo here, the other way to find that just came to me is if you're looking for your ZENinfo, you can always present it from here. And we go to Technician Application. You can go to Logging. It'll tell you what your logging is set up for. It's taken the global settings off the zone, but you can set the device itself differently. But you can view the log here. Okay, and this is what it's zipping up in the ZENinfo, but you can see it's here. And even if we did a file, save as, we're going to take this. Okay. And we're going to go in here and do a file open. And we're going to do like that. Come on. ZMD messages open. You can see it's pretty plain, right? Trying to find, there's a lot of information in here. You got module loaders, you got cache, you got removing services, you got initial ZMD, session managers, and so forth. So I bring that up because if you use a particular language, if you configure your ZCM language, so if we define our language, and you can see we're using ZCM logging, we can set different parameters up, okay, for it to be color coded. So for instance, these will be yellow and so forth, right? So we have to wait for that to time out. So as you display it here, we can see isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we want to highlight the knots, right? So let me go full screen here. And let's go first off, find, I mentioned the 999. Find 999. And it's not the seconds, is not what we're looking for. We're looking for a device session. So this particular session started right here. So if you're looking for the last time it booted, you'll start at the bottom and you'll scan up and you'll be able to see that it was identified, ID equals 999. You know that's when it booted up. That's That's your handler policy that's completed, device startup. Okay, one good key to know about this log is knowing where you started. Now, the other thing you can do if you're having an issue with a particular machine, let me go back to here and we'll go over to this guy, is let's say we have an error and it keeps coming up, so it's easy to reproduce. So we're going to go ahead and it might be good to clear the log. Now remember, this is only for those processes that you can reproduce. Otherwise, you might get rid of the error. You might want to save it first and then clear the log and then run a ZENinfo. That'll condense it from this point forward, giving you the details. And then you simulate the error and it will represent itself and it'll be easier to find. Okay, let's go back over to here. So, and false also isn't necessarily a bad thing, but typically it can be, so I put it in red. But anyway, this is how we set this up. Now the other thing we want to do is we want to see when we did a launch loader. Let me pull up my cheat sheet. ZENinfo, info collect. Yep, okay. So if we go to, if we search and we go, we know that this is our process. Well, maybe we don't know this is our process. So we're going to go ahead and do Notepad++. Notepad. Oops. See if we find it in here. Okay, there's Notepad++. All right. That's in the test area. This is I'm sorry, that's coming from the test folder, but it's assigned to the workstation. Let's see if we get a launch. They don't have a launch. Let's go launch, find. So it has to go through the policies. Thought I had it marked down on my cheat sheet here. Let me look again. Okay. So we're looking basically for the launch, and we're going to go LAUNCH. I think it's in capitals, but I guess not. Okay. Or it's in this particular one. Action, starting action, info collect. I think we go action. So this was an error that occurred. We'll come back to it. But we want to know when this one started. Let's go to this one instead. So let's go to the top. We've cleared, let's see if there's a 999. Okay, we know that it's gotten this, nope, that's time. Okay, looks like I didn't restart from the time I started this bundle. Okay, so let's go to the top again. Let's go to info, collect, find. Okay, there's one. And what is this one doing? All the way. Uncompressed item chains. Okay, so it's getting ready to updating views. Verifying item. And you got your GUID for your version. Where's my action? There, thread. So we could see that this master name is thread 77. All right. And it's going to go through a lot of different sequences here because you saw all the actions. Here's the root key and so forth. But for instance, if you wanted to see all of 77s, we can go into the language and we want to put it in a blue. Let me go here and grab, oh, it's 77 is your process. So I'm going to grab this, drop it in here, close this. You can see how fast it changed that color. So now we can look at all, we can pay attention to the 77 and what's going on. All right. Now if we do a view on error, we can now see it's debug before collecting information. So that's a message. We could see the error, and we could see the error it gave. Copying files could not. Action manager. Action continue on failure. So this was one of those that had an exception that you continue on failure. It did give an error, but the action finished processing, and it continued because we told it to continue finish on error. All right. We have a couple of others for the group policy services log. Trying to find a good location for this guy. And copying policy registries. And what do we have over here? Perform. Overlap. Not sure what that, oh, that's within this error up here. System environment trace. Okay, so this shows you we don't need to worry about these because we're not focused on those errors. We're focused on 7.7, right? So it had a generic action launch exit error. When I first did this, I purposely typed a password in wrong, so that way it would error out. And that's what we're seeing is sending action, message, by the way, I can't do anything. Okay. Then I typed in the right one, and it worked. It was successful. All right. So action set failure. There's your launch exception. And again, this is all in 7.7. So the other thing we could do, instead of looking for error itself, we can go into the language. We can go to ZCM. Well, it's already highlighted in red, but we can type in here and we can match case and hit next, and it'll show us, because we're not so concerned about the errors that are listed on this side. We want to know when it actually failed. Okay, and that's the only one. This was when I typed in the wrong. I was running ZENinfo in the script, and it failed because I didn't put in the right password. Okay, so that's a little bit about ZMD messaging. You can download this particular language if you wish to. I'll put it on the link in the description. But for the most part, good things to have, some helpful tips. Again, if you're looking for just a particular service or a particular environment utility, whatever, it'll shout it out by using that particular template. Okay. Now, a couple other things. Let's go back to our presentation, and we did 999. We did the processes. Again, you can set your debug mode on the zone. So on the device, let's go to the device first. We can go here. We can set the debug here on the device, right? And hit apply. Then clear log, if we can reproduce it, clear log, and then run your ZENinfo. It'll then be give you all sorts of new stuff, right? Makes it bigger, so be aware. But also, if we go over to the zone, we can go to the desktop, we can go to settings, You can go to device management and logging and set it here. We can override and we could set that to the device specifically. All right. The other advantage to this way is you can control how many number of backup files and how big they are. So every time it gets to 20 megabytes, it's going to zip it up. It's going to go to the next count. Once it has 5, it'll start rotating, right? Oldest out, newest in. All right. You can do other things like on a daily pattern or a monthly pattern as well. This is default pretty much. Okay. You could do that at the device and not disturb anybody else's logging methods. And that's partly because you're focused on that one device that's having an issue. Or you may want to set a global one. You could do it at a particular workstation. Group. It wouldn't be retired typically, but you could do it on, let's say we have finance. We'll go to details. Again, you go to settings, device management, log, and you override. Now, closest to the device wins. So if I have a setting here that's 10 gig or 10 meg, and I have one on the local device as 20 meg, 20 meg will happen. Same with number of backup files and so forth. So, and then of course you can set your global under configuration, device management, logging, and you can set it here what you want everybody to have unless it's specifically set. All right. And as you can see, this is pretty much default. Debug does give you a lot more information and support a lot more information. It takes a little bit longer to run because it's gathering more processes and services and that type of thing. All right. So we've done a little bit about debug, a number of archive logs. So we can see if we look at our open log folder, we haven't had enough to archive one yet. But as soon as it gets to 20 meg, it'll then give me an archive. All right, and you'll start seeing ZMD messages .1, .2, and so forth. They'll be zipped up. All right. Now, spoiler alert, there's something coming new to 24.2, and we'll talk about this in another ZENcast, but you will have retrieve logs in 24.2. So if you look at this, by default, it holds it for 7 days, but if you hit this retrieve logs, it'll do a ZENinfo and bring it to the device console. Okay, it'll run it on the device, bring that zip file up to the device console. So it'll be retrieved logs underneath the quick task. So for instance, you're going to check a particular device, you can hit quick task, there's the retrieve logs, you can select it. All right. Now in the device, if you have the device open, you can also hit retrieve log under the tasks, okay, on the left-hand side. Now it's going to go through the regular stuff like retrieve logs. You can password protect it if you want to. You can tell it which logs to collect. All right. You can collect full logs. Now, obviously on the agent side, you're not going to have vertical logs and those types of things. Even if they're selected, it'll just bypass them. But you're able to collect all of those logs that you need to, depending on what you want. Okay, right in the console. So this wizard comes up. Now the ZMD messages log is actually being audited. It shows uploading the zip file to the server's content repository, and it'll hold it for 7 days by default. Okay, and you can see here, initialize, let's see, what did I put here? Finished uploading, chunk 2. Okay, the loader services log also shows you that it was uploaded. Okay, so spoiler alert on that. That's pretty exciting that we have the retrieve logs right in the console now so that you can actually have those available to you and not bother the customer. You could do your investigative work on the side, and that's in 24.2. Okay, another thing, spoiler alert, that's coming up is to subscribe and share. So subscribe and share, we will have a zone that will have some product in it that you can use for your environment after you customize them, right? So if we look at my download filter, it's out on the internet. It's MDB zone. And if we go out to waiting, we can actually subscribe to this particular zone and bring some generic bundles down, and then you can massage them to your environment so that you can use them in your environment. Okay. If we look at, I'll go back over to here since it's taken a minute. If I go, so what I did is I created under bundles an MDB zone. So I know all of these are from that zone. So I wouldn't have these deployed until I massaged them, tested them, and put them into my local bundles department or area folders. Okay. So, but you can see some WinApps in here from different various vendors. Let's try and go to download filter again. You have the replication status, you have the settings. So let's go to subscription settings. These are pretty standard. We're not going to do much with those. I really need to get to the filter in order to show you what's going on with that. I think it's trying to connect to that zone because you put in a certificate, you authenticate in, and it'll be in a folder on that zone that's generic, so anybody can download them and check it out. So we're doing that. We're working on that. Doesn't look like it's going to come up fairly soon. Let me see if there's anything else. You know about the logging, open log folder, see where you're at. We are going to, we did subscribe and share is what we're waiting on. Let's go. While we're waiting on that, we can go through a few things. We'll leave this to come up. I haven't seen it take this long before, but it is a demo. So let's go on over to, remember about the ZENworks community. There's resources and references here. There's also a reference guide that we have put together that you'll be able to view once we get the PDF out. In the description, you'll have that PDF for references. It'll have SLD, it'll have all sorts of details about training and about the products. All right, where to go for the lookbooks, product information, and so forth. All right, so this is hybrid workspaces, product information. You have hybrid workspaces, lookbook, which gives you videos and comparison charts and flyers and so forth. All right. So again, prepackaged applications will be there. I'll keep putting these recordings up until we can go live again. I have to get a new token, looks like, but we will next time be doing ZSD portal management. Then we'll have a what's new with ZCM 24.2, and you can see all the features coming in, as well as integration with ZCM. All right. Remember that in this particular ZENcast, along with Filer, GroupWise, and OES iPrint, there are others webinars that you can go to. All right. It did come up. So here we have download to folder, MDB zone, right? And if I want to add, now that it's connected, I can go ahead and select different types of, maybe I want box drive, right? Okay. And then some tools. I can go to click share. Then if I hit OK, it'll go out and it'll collect those, put them into my list to subscribe and share, and it will go ahead and bring them into my zone for use. It brings them in as a sandboxed product, right? So you have to be able to massage that and publish it for you to be able to get it out to your production devices. All right. So we're going to let that sit. And as we go through, obviously the versions are 23.4, ZSD 24.2, Hybrid Workspaces 23.11, and ZRS 8.1.2. The futures 24.2 should be released anytime this month. ZCM Cloud Edition will be September, ZSD 24.3 will be July, and Hybrid Workspaces will be July. All right. Again, different lookbooks for different products. We were named IDC UEM leader for SMB, and you could see this particular blog out here and go to the report if needed. Okay. So that's a big exciting news. Thank you everybody using ZENworks, because it has really it affects what goes on in the MarketScape. All right. Community recordings that are already out there. Again, these are the ones that were out there. If you want to see ZENcast live upcoming schedule, it's out here as well, along with all the past webinars and different ZENcasts. Okay. Remember to apply your quarterly security patches if you have appliances. Run into online update and attempt that there. Okay, so we are done. We have that checked off into our list. Click share, box drive, ready to add, and the next time it will bring that down. Now it will say, oh, by the way, there's a variable specified in that particular bundle. You need to either ignore it, or if you have something special in your environment and you need to change this, go ahead and change this. But you can ignore these particular things, and it'll go ahead and ignore that, and then bring it into the sandbox to be published. Okay, so you could see different things here have different values that may affect your environment, and we're just warning you of that so that you can make sure you get it squared away. All right, and then I could run now and bring that those devices in, okay, or those bundles in. So it's reaching out to the MDB zone, authenticating it in, it's in progress, and bringing it into my zone, which is DA zone P1, primary one. Back to some of these recordings. So partner training opportunities are coming up, webinar schedules coming up, ZENworks webinar recordings, and TTP 2024 slides and videos are available, as well as OpenText World are available too. Okay. The next ZENcast will be June 18th, ZSD Portal Management. Again, I apologize for those that were attempting to get in on my ZENcast today. It looks like they removed the token this morning and have moved it over to OpenText, and I have to get a new token. So that was just perfect timing to keep it from me being able to broadcast live today and have your input. But I appreciate you guys continuing to watch this particular stream, and I hope that you can get more out of it. Please send emails to zen at opentext.com, and we'd be happy to include those particular topics in a ZENcast of your needs. Okay, you can see it's going through and replicating and not replicating. You saw cannot replicate object, but it's going through different pages here. Okay. And there's box drive. It now comes in. So once we're done, there's the MSI file. And we should have, oh, and there's ClickShare. So it should finish here. I'm going to go look at my bundles, MDB zone, Windows apps, and sharing cloud box drive. Okay. Tools, I think, was click share. And I told it to keep the same folder structure of where you put it in. So put it in here and keep the same folder structure you have on the originating server, which was WinApps. And so it did that instead of just clumping them all together. All right. Perfect. And again, that should be it for today. Appreciate everybody being here and watching this video. Hope to have it cleaned up with a new token next time. Everybody stay safe and have a great couple of weeks. We'll see you mid-June. Thank you.